Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. For over 400 years, Earth had been silent. The blue planet that once screamed its presence into the galaxy, with war, music, science, and fire, had gone dark, abandoned, quarantined, and all but erased from the galactic maps. The rest of the universe breathed easier when humanity vanished. They called it a mercy. Some said Earth had destroyed itself. Others claimed the humans had evolved into something else entirely. But the truth was buried beneath dust and rubble, beneath the scorched skis and broken satellites of a planet that refused to die. And now something was waking up deep beneath the surface of the Andes Mountains, hidden inside an ancient vault, surrounded by decaying metal and forgotten AI. A heartbeat returned, mechanical and human all at once. The pulse echoed through broken cables and dormant servers until it reached the core, a chamber bathed in cold blue light. The Guardian had awakened. He didn't remember his name at first, just pain, a heavy aching kind of sorrow that sat deep in his chest like old bones. He opened his eyes slowly, lids parting after centuries of sleep. The ceiling above was cracked. Vines had forced their way inside, wrapping around rusted steel. Nature had claimed the world, but not him, not yet. The Guardian rose from the cradle that had kept him alive through time itself. His joints cracked and popped with unnatural stiffness. His body was more metal than flesh now, part of the last human defense initiative that never launched, Project SDIX, Sentinel Terminal for Yielded Xenocide. He had volunteered to become the weapon Earth would never use unless it had no other choice. Well, that choice had been made long ago. A static voice crackled through the stale air. Subject 0, confirm cognition, confirm awakening. He didn't answer, not right away. Memories slammed into him like a freight train, war, fire, the Orion siege, the Council of Nine declaring Earth as too dangerous to be left unchecked, and finally the great silencing when every orbital defense system went offline at once. Someone had betrayed them, someone from within. Cognition confirmed, he said finally, his voice low and almost robotic. Good, the AI replied. Threat level has reached Omega Black. Galactic Council forces are inbound. They are unaware Earth is reactivating. Mission parameters: survive, defend, and retaliate. He clenched his fists. Something deep inside him stirred, something old and angry. Not just survival, not just defense, but retribution. Outside, the stars burned cold. Somewhere far from Earth, in the heart of the Triangulum sector, a council fleet of 17 ships drifted toward what they believed was just a dead planet. The admiral aboard the flagship Orax 7 smirked as he looked at the old mission files. Humanity, he scoffed. They always thought they were special, but in the end they vanished like everyone else who played God. But Earth wasn't dead, and the Guardian was no god. He was something worse. The warning beacons were still down. No one in the fleet noticed the spike in geothermal energy from South America. No one saw the launch of the first orbital drone, cloaked in stealth tech 1,000 years ahead of its time. No one heard the ancient war sirens howl beneath the oceans, but soon they would. The Guardian stood in the ruined vault, naked but alive. He reached for the case marked with the old sigil of Earth Command, a broken eagle with flames for wings. Inside, armor that had been forged with the blood of 100 fallen engineers. He stepped into it, piece by piece, each click and hiss of metal sealing the past back into place. He was human, he was a weapon, and he was awake. The Guardian stepped out of the vault into a world that barely resembled the Earth he once knew. Trees as tall as skyscrapers towered over the ruins of cities. Nature had swallowed everything man had built. Skulls lay half buried in moss. Concrete roads were cracked open like broken bones. Yet somehow in all this wild beauty, a cold silence hung in the air. There were no voices, no laughter, just wind, just ghosts. He paused at the edge of a collapsed overpass, eyes scanning the distant skyline of what used to be Bogota. Vines wrapped around skeletal high-rises, drones, old Earth models, some rusted into statues, hung lifeless from tangled cables. Even the air felt different, thinner somehow, as if the planet itself hadn't quite forgiven what had been done to it. The AI in his armor, designation Warden, clicked softly in his ear. Multiple heat signatures detected underground, non-human movement patterns inconsistent with Earth fauna. The Guardian narrowed his eyes. Scouts, possibly probes sent from the approaching fleet. Analysis suggests they are here to confirm extinction, then will disappoint them. He dropped into a crouch, the impact shaking dust from the concrete, and in moments he disappeared into the jungle that had grown over the city. Moving like a shadow through branches and rust, every step he took woke up something old, something hidden deep beneath a ruined metro station. Three alien scouts moved in silence. Their exosuits hissed softly with every step, long limbs scanning with pulsating blue lights. They weren't soldiers, they didn't need to be. Earth was supposed to be dead. Then something flickered. One of the scouts turned sharply. Energy signature detected, carbon fusion source. Impossible, no Earth tech should be active. Before the others could respond, a shape exploded from above, metal and fury wrapped in silence. The Guardian landed hard, his blade punching through the first scout's spine before it could scream. The second raised a plasma rifle, but it was already too late. A blast of kinetic energy from the Guardian's left arm shattered the creature's chest. The third tried to run, it didn't get far. Within seconds, it lay motionless on the concrete, black blood leaking into the cracks. 3 down, Warden confirmed, voice calm. More will come, they know now. The Guardian knelt by one of the corpses. He pried open the helmet, revealing the twisted face of a Daryl, an insected race that had been part of the Council's execution squad during Earth's final days. He remembered them well. They had burned New Delhi, gutted London, smiled while Earth screamed. They remember us as monsters, he said quietly. Warden responded coldly. Then let them be reminded why. Back aboard the RX-7, the Council Admiral leaned forward in his chair. We've lost contact with 3 scouts. A younger officer beside him blinked. System glitch number, something's active down there, something old. Another officer, pale and shaking, whispered, what if it's them? The Admiral laughed bitterly. It's not. The humans are gone. Then, even as he said it, warning lights began to flash. An incoming transmission, encrypted, ancient, and unmistakably human. The ship's system struggled to decode it, lines of corrupted language flashing like static. Then, through the noise, a voice, low, hollow, full of fire. You came back. You shouldn't have. The Admiral stood slowly, his face draining of color. What the hell was that? Another voice replied. This time from the ship's AI, cold, robotic certain. Guardian-class response unit detected, Earth defense protocols reactivated. The Admiral turned to his crew, full alert. Launch all drones, scramble fighters. If there's even one of them left, we burn the planet again. But this time, Earth was ready, and it had a name. Rain began to fall over the broken bones of Bogotá, heavy and dark, like the sky was bleeding. The Guardian stood atop the old communications tower, watching as streaks of silver light burned through the atmosphere. Drop pods, thousands of them, Council assault units descending from orbit like a rain of fire. They weren't waiting to confirm Earth's death anymore. They were coming to make sure it stayed dead. Warden spoke in a crisp, even tone. 17 ships have entered low orbit with an estimated 2,000 troops deploying in phases. Main objective, secure the planet's core and eliminate all resistance. Resistance, the Guardian muttered. They still think there's more of us. Warden paused. There could be. The Guardian continued. Multiple dormant facilities detected worldwide, cryopods, weapon caches, deep bunkers sealed since the collapse. Some show signs of integrity, others may have survivors. A flicker of hope sparked and immediately burned. He remembered the last day clearly, screams across continents, families turned to ash, Earth's last soldiers torn apart by orbital strikes while the Council watched from above. He had been frozen, not as a soldier, but as a contingency plan, a nightmare kept in a box. But maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone. Mark the sites, prioritize the ones closest to activation. Confirmed. He turned toward the smoking sky. Council pods were slamming into the ground miles away, kicking up towers of fire, trees burst into flame, birds scattered into the night. War had returned to Earth, so had vengeance. On the outer edge of the Amazon basin, the first Council assault team deployed into the jungle, 6 squads, all armed with pulse weapons and neural drones. The leader, a Crevarian named Commander Shath, stepped onto the mossy ground with contempt. This world is filth, he sneered. Let's finish what the stars started. His helmet hue flickered for a second, a brief static interference almost like a heartbeat. He waved it off. Deploy the searchers. If anything's moving down here, I want it dead. They didn't realize they were being watched. In the trees high above, the Guardian moved like a ghost, his armor adjusted to the environment, blending in with bark and leaf. Every breath he took synced with the forest's rhythm. He was calm, focused, deadly. Warden's voice echoed in his ear. Target identified, Commander Shath, high value. Oversaw orbital strikes on Southeast Asia, publicly executed surrendered civilians, no war crimes trial issued. The Guardian growled. He dies first. A second later, chaos exploded. A blast of energy shot from the tree line, ripping through 2 soldiers before they could react. The others turned confused, but shadows moved between them, fast and silent. One was dragged into the underbrush, another was crushed against a tree. Shath turned in circles, barking orders, but the jungle swallowed his voice. The Guardian emerged, coated in ash and blood. "Hello!" Commander Shath raised his rifle and fired. The bolt bounced off the Guardian's armor like water off stone. Shath tried to run, but a spear of pure plasma impaled him from behind. The Guardian stepped forward, pulled it out slowly, and looked him in the eyes. "This is for Manila," he twisted. Shath died without a scream. Warden spoke again. "Incoming transmission, encrypted origin, Earth facility, New Zealand sector." The Guardian's breath caught. "Survivors?" he asked. "Possibly activation, ping, old Earth military signature. They are waking up." He turned to the stars above, where the Council ships circled like vultures. "You wanted the last war," he whispered. "You're going to get it." His armor hummed, his weapons recharged, and Earth, silent for so long, began to roar. Once more, the facility in New Zealand, never meant to be found, buried beneath the southern Alps, masked by tectonic distortion fields and wrapped in layers of ice and coated silence, had pinged back for the first time in 412 years. Inside its frozen halls, ancient lights flickered on. The floors shook slightly as geothermal energy surged through dormant systems. Robotic arms moved in the dark, clearing dust from control panels. Cryochambers hissed and steamed, long-forgotten names glowing faintly on their monitors. The Guardian stood before the reinforced entrance, snow whipping around him like angry spirits. His armor steamed from the trek up the mountainside. He pressed a hand to the console. "Warden running decryption now," the biometric lock authorized. "Facility name ARC-9, last entry log March 4, 2213, population 47 cryo-survivors, mostly military, status unknown." The door opened with a long metallic groan. Inside, it was cold and silent, almost peaceful. Guardian walked slowly down the central hallway, his footsteps echoing off steel and frost. Rows of cryochambers lined the walls. He moved to the nearest one, wiping off the frost. A woman's face appeared pale, eyes closed, perfectly still. Major Issa Tran. He remembered her, commander of the Pacific Resistance, one of the last to go under right before the Council glassed Tokyo. She had fought to the bitter end, never surrendering, never breaking. "Vitals?" he asked. "Stable," Warden confirmed. "Minimal brain degradation. Pod integrity holding, revival possible." The Guardian nodded. "Begin wake-up sequence." The pod hissed, its lights turning orange as systems purged cryofluid. Isla's chest began to rise, her eyelids fluttered. He stood silently, watching her return from the dead. Then her eyes snapped open and she screamed. A reflexive panic kicked in, her hands slammed against the pod walls, her body shaking, lungs gasping for air. She thrashed until her eyes finally focused on the figure standing before her. Recognition dawned slowly. "Zero," she rasped, voice dry and broken. "Is it really you?" "Yes," he said softly. "You're safe." She coughed, sitting up. "Safe on Earth? Are you insane?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he helped her out of the pod. Her legs barely held her weight. "You're the first?" she asked. Warden chimed in, initiating mass revival. Estimated time, 5 minutes standby. Issa steadied herself, looking around at the still sleeping chambers. "We weren't supposed to wake up, unless the Council is back," the Guardian said, her face darkened. "They're not just watching this time, they're here on the ground. I've already killed 2 scout teams and a commander. They know something's active." Isla clenched her fists. "Then it's time to remind them what Earth can do." Slowly, one by one, the pods began to open. Soldiers, engineers, tacticians, the ghosts of humanity's last defense, emerged into the cold with wild eyes and raw memories. Some cried, others vomited, a few dropped to their knees and prayed. The Guardian stood in the middle of them all, silent. "You're all that's left," he said. "The world has changed, but the enemy hasn't. The Council's fleet is in orbit, their boots are on our soil. They thought Earth would stay buried, they thought we would forget." Isla stepped beside him, her voice stronger now. "We didn't forget, we endured, and now we fight." Someone in the crowd shouted, "What do we have to fight with?" "Sticks and memories," the Guardian replied, raising his hand. A hologram burst to life, schematics, weapon caches, satellite weapons that still orbited above, cloaked and waiting. "You have me," he said, "and you have vengeance." Warden's voice interrupted. "Warning, orbital strike signatures detected. The Council is targeting this facility." Looked around. "We just woke up." "They want us dead before we remember how to kill," the Guardian replied. He turned to the crowd. "You have 3 minutes to gear up. After that, we go underground and above in the sky." Fire began to fall again. The first blast hit just outside the facility, a white-hot beam of plasma that turned a mountainside into molten rock. The ground buckled, ice cracked like thunder, and the once peaceful peaks erupted into chaos. Inside Arc 9, alarms screamed. Issa was already in motion, tossing weapons from unlocked vaults to soldiers barely 2 minutes awake. The Guardian moved like a storm through the confusion, calibrating kinetic rifles, activating shield drones, and shouting orders like muscle memory. Defensive protocols online, Warden called auto turrets at entry points, shield generators charged to 76%, structural collapse imminent in 7 minutes. Hold the outer wall, the Guardian barked. We fall back in phases. Another strike landed closer this time. The blast wave knocked 3 of the newly awakened off their feet. A soldier screamed, clutching a broken leg. Isla grabbed him, dragged him behind cover, and tossed a med pack his way without missing a beat. "Tell me this place has a tunnel," she snapped at the Guardian. "It's Earth," he said. "We always dig deep." He slammed his fist into the emergency console. A section of floor in the main chamber split apart, revealing a metal staircase spiraling down into darkness, the old escape tunnels, forgotten by time, missed by council scans. "Everyone move," Isla ordered. "Leave nothing behind, we're ghosts now." As the last soldier descended, the Guardian remained. He activated the last fail-safe on the console, detonation in 90 seconds. Warden confirmed. He looked around once more at the place that had kept Earth's hope frozen, then followed them into the dark beneath the mountains. The survivors marched through damp tunnels carved during the old resistance. Crude markings lined the walls, directions, warnings, old code words scratched by desperate hands long dead. The Guardian walked up front, silent, with Isla beside him, breathing hard. "We need to find a stronghold somewhere to regroup. This many bodies can't stay underground long." "I know a place," he said, "but it's a long way from here, and it's not going to welcome us back easily." "Where?" "Atlantica." She stopped in her tracks. "You're insane. That place was a myth even before the fall." He turned. "It wasn't a myth. I built it far above Earth." Aboard the Council ship Verith, Admiral Tholos studied the charred satellite image of Arc 9. His lips curled in satisfaction. "Facility destroyed. No life signs remain." His second-in-command shifted nervously. "What if they escaped underground, the human Guardian?" "We have confirmation it was him," Tholos sneered. "A relic, one soldier doesn't matter." Even as he said it, another officer ran into the bridge, pale with panic. "Sir, 4 outposts gone dark, drone squads wiped out. We're losing troops in the Amazon and Sahara sectors." "It's spreading." "Impossible," Tholos snapped. "We wiped them out, we burned them." "Yes, sir," the officer stammered, "but they're fighting like they remember." In the tunnels, the survivors finally reached a massive steel door sealed with layers of old AI locks, symbols from a lost era. The Guardian placed his palm on the reader. Warden's voice chimed in. "Access granted. Welcome home." With a heavy groan, the door slid open, revealing a vast chamber of glowing blue lights, dormant mechs, armored suits, cryo-weapons, and rows upon rows of unmarked caskets. Isla stepped forward, eyes wide. "What the hell is this?" The Guardian answered quietly. "The real Ark insurance policy. Humanity's clause hidden for the right moment." She walked to one of the caskets and wiped away the frost. Inside, another soldier slept. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "How many?" she whispered. 2,000, he said. Isla's voice broke. "They could turn the tide." "They will," he replied, "but only if we wake them in time." She turned to him. "Then we stop running, we make our stand." He nodded. "Tell the stars." His voice low with fire. "That Earth is awake." The hangar was alive with forgotten power. Blue light shimmered across the sleeping giants. Exo suits the size of tanks, lined up like silent sentinels. The Guardian moved through them with quiet reverence. Each one had a name etched into its armor, not serial numbers, but names of soldiers who had volunteered to become more than human, to become Earth's vengeance back when the stars turned their backs. "Alah," someone remarked as he activated the first suit. "You built all this?" she asked. "I buried all this," he replied. "After the fall, when the Council's extermination squad swept through our last strongholds, we knew we couldn't win head-on. So we went underground, left traps, woke ghosts, built weapons, not for then, but for now." He turned to her, his armor lit by the rising glow of awakened machines. "This was never about surviving. It was about waiting for the right moment." She nodded. "And now we stop waiting." Warden's voice echoed through the chamber. Revival protocols engaged. Cryo units online. Estimated full battalion deployment, 16 hours. Too long, the Guardian muttered. The Council won't give us that. Isla pulled up the old satellite link static, but something moved beyond it. Faint signals, distorted patterns, Earth's old orbital network flickering like ghosts in the dark. She tapped into one of the dormant nodes. Got something, she whispered. Signal out of Kenya, resistance cell encrypted but active. The Guardian's eyes narrowed. Impossible. She looked at him, or maybe we're not alone anymore. Half a world away, in the ruins of Nairobi, Commander Talon and Kuru watched a flickering map projected from his salvaged uplink drones. It showed Council patrols sweeping through what was once the city's heart. Old AI scrap littered the streets, and mutated flora had consumed concrete. But deep in the catacombs, under a marketplace that hadn't seen trade in 400 years, Talon's people prepared for war. He stared at the glowing red dot pulsing on his map. A signal, military-grade, pre-fall frequency, Earthborn. He turned to his lieutenant. Send a message back, 5 words. What do you want to say? Talon smiled. Earth lives, resistance breathes, ready. Back in Atlantica, Isla received the message with trembling hands. She looked up at the Guardian. They're alive. They've been fighting all this time. He let out a long breath. So it begins. They stood together before the awakening army suits came online. Lights surged across the floor, and men and women in cryo units stirred. Muscles twitching, their minds still full of ash and blood, were being downloaded with the truth. What had happened, what was coming, and what they had to do. The Guardian lifted a plasma rifle and turned to the nearest suit. He climbed in, the armor sealing around him with a thunderous hiss. Blue lines pulsed through the plates. He moved slowly at first, then faster, like he had never stopped. Warden, he said, broadcasting open comms to all Earth-based frequencies. Civilian, military, resistance, dormant AI, I want everyone listening. Channel open. He stepped forward, his voice like steel and thunder. This is the Guardian of Earth. If you hear this, you are not alone. The Council has returned. They want to finish what they started, but we are not broken. We are not buried. We are the last of the last, and we remember. If you've got fire left in your blood, weapons in your hands, rage in your heart, then rise. This is our world, and it's time we make them bleed, forever setting foot on it. The message ended across the planet, in bunkers, in jungles, in ruins, and in data nodes. People heard it, and they answered. The hangar thrummed with an energy no one had felt in years, raw, rising, and terrifying in its promise. The Guardian stood among ancient war machines, their armor worn, their cores blinking alive for the first time in centuries. Dust and silence had filled this place for generations. Now it felt like a storm about to crack open the heavens. These weren't just machines, they were remnants of Earth's fury. Suits that had once turned the tide of battles lost to history, weapons once deemed too brutal, too uncontrollable, now they were Earth's last hope. Warden confirmed. 76 Titan suits online. Warden, cryo resuscitation sequence for battalion units in progress. First wave of soldiers will regain motor function in 30 minutes. The Guardian adjusted the gauntlet of one of the Titans, whispering something Isla couldn't hear, maybe a name, maybe a memory. Then he turned to her. His visor dimmed, revealing his real face beneath cracked armor. They called us extinct, he said quietly, but extinction is just another word for resting when it comes to humans. Isla nodded, jaw clenched. Then let's wake the others. She moved to one of the caskets and wiped the frost from the glass. Inside, a woman with streaks of silver hair lay still, her name etched above, Colonel Zyabeki. Isla remembered her, a legend during the Pacific sieges. They said she once held a Council-dread trooper squad at bay with a knife and a shoulder wound. Now she slept like the dead, but her vitals were steady. I'll bring them back, Warden confirmed. But it will take time, 16 hours for all combat personnel to be reanimated and rearmed. We don't have 16 hours, the Guardian snapped. The Council's orbitals have already started triangulating surface radiation. They'll trace it here. Then we buy them time, Isla said. We fight with what we've got. She tapped into an old interface on the wall, flickering, glitchy, barely alive. But it pulsed with something familiar, Earth's old satellite uplinks. She ran a sweep through every global relay the Resistance had buried before the fall. Most were gone, others offered only silence. But then something, a signal, faint but clean, a military code frequency buried in Council encryption, appeared. Kenya, she muttered. There's someone out there broadcasting through the ruins. The Guardian leaned over her shoulder. Someone smart using enemy distortion fields to piggyback the message. He decrypted it slowly, his fingers trembling. It wasn't long, just 5 words. Earth lives, resistance breathes, ready. Isla exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. They never stopped fighting, she whispered. Warden confirmed with a chirp. Source traced to Nairobi. Active resistance unit, estimated strength 40 to 70 combatants. Commander Talon, the Guardian said, surprised. He should be dead. Well, he's not, Isla replied. And he just called from half a world away beneath Nairobi's shattered skyline. Commander Talon and Kuru studied a crude holographic map projected from a salvaged uplink drone. It painted a grim picture, council patrols crawling through once sacred ground, their armor gleaming like parasites. His people, what few remained, hid in the sewer veins and collapsed catacombs of the old world. He looked up as his second-in-command, a boy barely 20, jogged into the room. They responded, the boy said. Talon raised an eyebrow. Who? The kid grinned. Atlantica. The name hit like thunder. No one has said that name in 400 years, Talon whispered. The boy nodded. Well, they said something back. It was short. He activated the playback. A deep, metallic, cold, and powerful voice spoke across the static. This is the Guardian of Earth. The rest needed no repeating. Talon stood slowly, every scar and bone aching, but his smile grew like fire. Tell them we're coming back in Atlantica. Isla stood beside the Guardian as he faced the awakening soldiers one by one. The cryopods hissed open. Men and women coughed, gasped, and blinked against the harsh light. Each one had faced death centuries ago, and now they were reborn into another war. This is our army, Isla said, eyes burning, and we're not alone. The Guardian nodded. Then it's time. He said, broadcast to all channels. Warden's systems roared to life. A moment later, his voice thundered across Earth. This is the Guardian of Earth. If you hear this, you are not alone. The Council has returned. They want to finish what they started, but we are not broken, we are not buried, we are the last of the last, and we remember. If you've got fire left in your blood, weapons in your hands, rage in your heart, then rise. This is our world, and it's time we make them bleed, forever setting foot on it. Somewhere far above, Council fleets paused because Earth had just whispered back, come get us. The storm rose from Earth like a wrathful scream. In low orbit, the Council's observation fleet floated silently, unaware of the ancient fury stirring below. Scout ships scanned continents, detecting what they thought were only geothermal surges and tectonic anomalies. They saw heat, but not the heart. They saw radiation, but not rage. They had grown arrogant, believing humanity broken beyond recovery, but now Earth's voice was war. And the sky was about to burn. From the depths of Atlantica, massive electromagnetic pulses burst upward. Tamed chaos wrapped in ancient tech caused Council drones to blink offline midair, their circuits fried before they could scream. One of the orbital defense cruisers lurched, its lights flickering, alarms blaring as systems died without warning. What's happening down there? Barked Commander Rethal aboard the Varnaxis, the largest of the orbital fleet. Localized energy signatures increasing exponentially, his science officer reported. But this can't be natural. It's targeted. It's warfare from Earth, from something buried beneath Earth, Rethal snarled. Send everything, all atmospheric hunters. I want that surge crushed. But they were already too late. The Guardian led the first charge in his Titan suit, cloaked with plasma-reactive plates and humming with centuries-old vengeance. He launched from the inner Earth toward the sky. Others followed, 20, then 50, then the full might of the resurrected battalion. Issa rode just behind him, piloting a sleek skirmisher mech with rail cannons mounted to its shoulders. Beside her flew 2 drones encoded with Warden's AI, now weaponized for autonomous sabotage. The Resistance had upgraded them while sleeping. Above them, streaks of fire crossed the sky as Council hunter ships descended like vultures. The old battleships still held power. Their energy weapons could level cities. But they had never met an enemy like this before, one that had nothing left to lose. The Guardian locked onto the first target, a heavy scout cruiser, and activated his suit's boosters. His armor screamed through the upper atmosphere as he slammed into its hull with the force of a meteor. Metal shrieked. Enemy troops scrambled inside the vessel. The Guardian didn't hesitate. Plasma blades ignited along his arms, slicing through the hull like paper. Inside the ship, Council soldiers barely had time to aim before he tore them apart in a whirlwind of heat and fury. Issa's skirmisher swooped in behind him, unloading twin-rail shots that tore through the exposed engines of a second vessel. It spun in the sky, crashing in a flaming spiral into the sea below near Nairobi. Commander Talon's forces surged into the open, armed with ancient pulse rifles and reverse-engineered alien tech. They joined with resistance cells from Egypt, Tanzania, and the Congo, all awakened by the Guardian's call. Skirmishes lit the African continent like wildfires, each one another crack in the Council's grip. Warden, status on the orbital disruptor, the Guardian called through the haze of fire and debris. 83% charged, Warden replied. Time to atmospheric burst, 3 minutes. Then let's keep them occupied, the Guardian said. Council carriers loomed above massive, lumbering armed to the teeth. One opened fire, scattering the sky with plasma bursts, annihilating part of the earth below. Trees vanished, buildings melted, dozens of human mechs went dark. But the Guardian didn't flinch. He activated his emergency boosters, his main cannon, and fired a plasma anchor that embedded deep into the carrier's underbelly. With a roar, he reeled himself up and drilled straight into the engine core. Inside, Council engineers tried to overload the core before he could reach it. They failed. He left a bomb in his wake and dove out of the breach as the ship exploded in a brilliant starburst over the Pacific. Back in orbit, Commander Rethal watched in disbelief. "One of our carriers destroyed," he whispered. His officer nodded, pale with fear. "And not by our enemies from the stars, but by humans." "No," Rethal hissed. "Not humans, monsters pretending to be dead." Then the disruptor fired from deep in Atlantica. An ancient weapon hidden since the last days of the fall launched its payload. It wasn't a missile in the traditional sense. It was a concentrated graviton pulse designed to scramble the laws of physics in a localized zone. The orbit above Earth bent, ships tilted, electronics died, and in the span of 7 seconds, over a third of the Council fleet lost power and began spiraling down toward the planet they had once ruled. Down on the ground, Isla stood beside the Guardian on the cliff of a shattered ridge, watching Council ships burn their way through the clouds. She turned to him. "We're winning." He didn't smile, not yet. This is only the first blood. He looked up at the dark heavens. "The Council will send more. This was a scout fleet. The true armada waits beyond Mars." She gritted her teeth. "Then we hit them before they get here." He finally nodded. "Next stop, the stars." They left Earth in silence, but their fury echoed across the cosmos. The Guardian now stood aboard the Revenant, an ancient human warship that hadn't seen the void in 4 centuries, dug out from the crust beneath the Andes, repaired with hybrid tech scavenged from fallen Council wreckage, and reforged in the fire of purpose. It was more than just a vessel. It was Earth's vengeance made manifest. Around it, dozens of retrofitted Council cruisers commandeered during the orbital battles formed a loose fleet. They were not elegant, they were not many, but they carried warriors unlike any the galaxy had seen before, humans who had tasted defeat and buried it in steel, resistance fighters, ancient soldiers, and awakened ghosts of war. Leading them all, the Guardian's Warden's voice rang through the command deck. "Trajectory locked. Destination, Council High Throne. Estimated arrival, 16 hours. Isla adjusted her arm-mounted neural interface and leaned against a cold bulkhead. 16 hours to either victory or extinction. The Guardian said nothing. He stood, staring out into the abyss at the faint twinkle that marked the heart of Council space. Isla crossed the floor. "We don't have to do this. We could disappear, hide, rebuild." He looked at her, eyes hardened from centuries of battle. "And let them rebuild? Let them come again? No, they will never stop until we burn the throne they worship to ash." She nodded, "Then we end it."